Welcome everybody to some Division 2 action now from week 5 between the guy with the super long name that doesn't fit in the box, Anthony Frederikson at the top of the screen, and Paul Reynolds at the bottom of the screen. This was recorded by Paul, so we're going to see, looks like Black White Knights. This is a deck I'm really interested to have a look at because I'm trying to find a standard deck to play for a coming event. But one of the problems I saw with this deck when I looked at it, as you can see it right now, is Benelish Marshal requires 3 whites, and you can see the Ifna Deadlands there has already mucked that plan up, so it's going to be turn 4 before we see the Benelish Marshal at the earliest. Both these players in Division 2 are mid-table this season, so that they really need to pick up points now. It's now or never for their season. You see Anthony's on 16 and Paul's on 19. Just to give you a bit of context, the leader for the division, Michael Yu, has 53 points. So there is quite a bit of a gap going on here. As 2 Knight of Malice come in. Now these Knights both have first strike, and they get they also get +1 if anybody on the battlefield plays has a white permanent. It looks like Anthony's playing Esper. I don't know what sort of Esper at this stage. Here's a history of Benalia. So this is an explosive start from Paul. I'm just trying to juggle my coffee here. I need the coffee. I've got a huge list of these that I'm hoping to get through today. So you can see the history of Benalia there. It's a white permanent, brings the Knights up, pumps those Knight of Malice. And what does he take here? I think you got to take a knight because History of Benalia is going to. Okay, he takes a Scrap Heap Scrounger because it has recursion. The problem here is that History of Benalia on the 3rd phase will pump those knights. He is still Anthony is still facing lethal on board here next turn. He's going to hard cast a Raf Capuchin, which is a 3/3 that gives Historics Flash. I think they're... he could have probably flashed that in. It's going to be either a chump blocker for the Knight of Malice, or it's going to take down that other knight. I think you take down the other knight, takes 6, because he's still in top deck mode next turn. But Raf Capuchin is going to die here because losing the knight's going to turn on Fatal Push. And I think Paul's got game 1, unless Anthony has a board wipe. Let's see what he can conjure up. At 2 life, he can't conjure up anything, so we're going to game 2. Okay, the Toolcraft Exemplar suggests to me he's actually on this I think it's just called Black White Aggro. It plays a number of vehicles as well, but we'll confirm that here. You can see he doesn't awkwardly have the black source for the Malice, but I think you want to play the Ballista next turn anyway to turn on the Toolcraft Exemplar. Toolcraft will become a 3/2 when it attacks. Yeah, and that's what he's going to do. Fire off the Ballista. And that's going to get countered. I like that play from Anthony because it stops the Toolcraft Exemplar from triggering. Sycophant is a really good card because if it counters a creature, it actually exiles it, which is going to be important in this match with the Scrap Heap Scrounger. But Anthony's going to miss his 3rd land drop, so Knight of Malice will come down now. And because he controls a white permanent, the Knight's a 3/2. Can he hit his 3rd land drop this time? No, he can't. This is bad news now. And here's a Benelish Marshal. This is the Lord, so it gives all creatures +1/+1. So you can see choosing not to swing the Exemplar there. I'm not really sure why, but just swings in for 4. And Anthony's seen enough, so we're going to go to Modern. Both these players tend to play pretty consistent decks, and I'm guessing Anthony from that Yevamaya Coast on turn 1 is on his usual deck, which is Eldrazi, Bant Eldrazi, and Paul which is pretty well established now, plays this taking turns deck. So Paul's deck is he fiddles around with it every week. Like, I can see blue-white at the moment. He has tried Esper, like there's been black splashes. He's just tweaked it here and there each time. But the one consistency is that he has been playing this taking turns deck. And he's going to be featured on the podcast, the Ex-Major League podcast, soon, because he's playing in a team event with Evan Bello. We're going to be catching up with the two of them together, hopefully. But all the early running here is with Anthony. The key here for the Eldrazi deck, you can see there's two actual taking turns cards, but the key for Paul's deck is to be able to buy time to get to 5 mana. So he buys time with Geiger Drouse, which you can see there, and Exhaustion, which will tap down creatures. And Exhaustion next turn will be really good. Although one awkward interaction here is that Anthony can't do it because he doesn't have the mana, but later on, if he's tapped down because of the exhaustion, he can actually use Eldrazi Displace it to displace something and untap it. But Paul's just a bit fumbly at the moment. I think he missed his third land drop by drawing the card. He had to Serum Visions into it. I think next turn we'll definitely see that exhaustion coming out. There's 6 power coming here. Also, Anthony's at 5 mana with 5 cards in hand, so now this play here, I'm not sure what Paul's aiming for. He's tapping down the Cavern of Souls, which cuts him off from Reality Smasher, 5 mana, but if he had the Reality Smasher, he would have played it before combat. So I think the threat there was the Thought-Knot Seer, but there was no Thought-Knot Seer as we saw. It was just an Eldrazi Displacer. But he can't, I was going to say, he can cast Exhaustion here because he's tapped out, so only the Displacer is going to get in for 3. One interesting rule interaction here I'm not sure about is he cracked that fetch after the Exhaustion. If he fetched a tapped Shock, I don't know if the Shock would untap. One of our group that knows more about the rules will be able to tell me the answer to that. But Paul's going to be able to start going off here. So you can see straight away Time Walk. This is the magic. This is turn 5. He's going to draw 2 more cards. At this stage, he only has 1 Time Warp. Now he's got 2. He's got Part the Water Veil. And I'm not sure why he plays that first, because he wants to build up to that. Because that's got the... he casts it with Awaken. And the other option that he has here is Cryptic Command, because Cryptic's going to be able to tap down all the opponent's creatures to buy him another turn as well. And this is kind of really awkward for Anthony. At this stage, you're probably starting to think about sideboards, and I'm sure somewhere between his main deck and his sideboard, he's got a number of Stubborn Denials and possibly something like a Disdainful Stroke, so they'll all be coming in, and Thought-Knot Seer, because this deck plays a lot of Time Walks, I think at least 12. You can't realistically sort of Thought-Knot Seer and counter them all. Exhaustion is going to be a good play here. But he's up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I think it's 8 mana to play the Water Veil with Awaken. He's got a Temporal Mastery. He just keeps going. He's going to draw a ton of... almost probably draw his whole deck, particularly if he plays Howling Mine. You can see he's got the Laboratory Maniac there. He does have another Time Walk. What cards do you want to discard here? He's going to start discarding lands. Cryptic Command not required. I think Remand will get discarded next turn. He's got a Teferi. Yeah, the real weakness of this taking turns deck is aggressive decks, I believe. So once he can get to 5, he starts to do this. He's going to replicate and tap down the lands. I'm not really... My guess here is he's worried about Path to Exile. Is he lining up the... What's he going to dismember? I dismembered his own Matter Reshaper to try and find a card, and he did. He found a Cavern of Souls, but it's not going to make a difference here. Paul, of course, one of our... You can see his name across the bottom there. We try and acknowledge all of our Patreon contributors. So thanks very much to Paul for that. Now he's got Anthony at his mercy now. He can basically exhaustion that whole board and get another turn as well. So I think he wants to go to Fairy and then exhaustion here. Yep. That's the play. Pass a turn, all that mana is going to be tapped. And he's going to be able to have a remand as well. 2, 4, 6. He is going to have to discard a card though. Yeah, Anthony's seen enough, so we're going to game 2. And you can see that's a very weak keep there from Paul. He's kept a 1-lander. Anthony for some reason flashed a Rest in Peace. I can only guess he's bought that in because he just doesn't have enough sideboard options. He might have seen the Elixir of Immortality in game 1, so he thought there's some sort of graveyard shenanigans going on. So he's bought that in as some sort of security. You can see Paul's got his second land source. I think because Paul sends his videos every week, so I get to see this deck a fair amount, and it seems to be the real weakness of this deck is it doesn't mulligan very well. If he struggles to hit his land drops, he's in very, very big trouble, and he can't really get out of that. But you can see he's starting to rectify that now. But you can see here, yeah, he's going to Geiger Joust and tap down here, because this is Thought Not Seer territory this turn. And this is kind of awkward for him, because next turn, Anthony is going to be able to untap, and if he plays a Thought Not Seer, you can see he doesn't really have good targets to hit. So here we go. Does he have the Thought Not Seer? And if he does, what do you take? 2, 3, 4, 5. He's cracking. It might be a reality smasher. It's a Rest in Peace. Yeah, this card's a bit confusing. I'll have to find out from Anthony what the thinking or the line is here. Now he's kind of set up. He's set up to be hit by exhaustion this turn if Paul wants to do that, and he's going to. Yep. And he's at 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's not going to be able to take an extra turn next turn. Noble. Oh, okay. Nice play there from Anthony. He named humans with the second cavern, so he can play Noble Hierarch. Gets in for 4. Actually, sorry, I said he wasn't going to be able to take an extra turn. He could have, because he's drawing 2 cards. So he could have drawn the land and the turn required. You can see he did draw the Time Warp, and he does have Cryptic available. So 2, 4, 6. I see Anthony's got 5 cards in hand. Here's Smasher. Does this get Cryptic commanded? It does not. This line here I don't really like. I think he can afford to take the hit, to be honest, because he's going to start going off next turn, and he could have kept the Cryptic as a counter spell. The other option was actually to counter the Smasher and draw, then he would have only taken 4. Because he has kind of opened the door here. You can see he has found another Cryptic command. And the problem with this, the problem for Anthony with this Geiger Drouse is the Replicate. You can't. It's not the sort of card that you can realistically counter. I have played around with this Geiger Drouse. I don't know what he's doing. He's like tapping indiscriminately here and allowing. Oh, okay. He's trying to bait the Smash with Blessed Alliance. Okay. I don't know if Anthony saw that one coming, but it's a kind of play where you think, what on earth is this guy doing? Is he going to fall for it? And in this case, he did fall for it. But it does mean that he opens the door to Thought-Knot Seer. What do you take? I think you take the Time Warp. Yeah, I think he's got to take the Time Warp, because otherwise you can go Time Warp into Water Veil into Walk the Eons. Whereas if he doesn't draw a Time Warp next turn, then he can't actually do it. What did he take? He took Cryptic Command. I mean, Cryptic Command is a form of Time Warp as well. My thinking here is, particularly if he fetches a blue source here, which he doesn't. Oh, he's got the Noble Hierarch. I was going to say, is he holding a counter spell? Stubborn Denial is a hard counter now. Finds a second Thought-Knot Seer, but he's a land short of playing it. So he's going to pass a turn, let Paul untap. So there's the land for the Time Warp, so now he's going to start doing his thing. Of course, if this is countered, it'll be a big blowout the other way. Has he got the counter spell? He does. It's a Warping Whale. Nice, so he's going to take 7 next turn, drop him to 9. So he's got him tapped out. So this is where he needs one more counter spell, and I think he's got the game. He's going to get to look at 2 cards here from the Dictator Crucifix. Plays a second Thought-Knot, so this is going to this time take part the Water Veil. So he's got Ancient Stirrings. He can actually find if he finds a third Thought-Knot, he can take that, Walk the Eons, and I think it's game over. Or he finds a Deep Fiend. Okay, that'll work as well. That's a nice little piece of... he's got the Breeding Pool and the Noble Hierarch, so he can cast it. That's a spicy bit of tech there from Anthony. So do this in the upkeep, surely. Do it now before he can cast his Walk the Eons. Yeah, so he's going to do it now, so we're going to go to game 3. Yeah, Paul's seen enough. He knows the writing's on the wall. Okay, so again here we can see the sketchy keep from Paul. He's kept a 2-lander with no Serum Visions or any way of finding that third. If he can find a third, then he's perfectly fine, because Dictate's going to be drawing him two per turn, but he doesn't find it this time. So now if he doesn't hit it next, he's in big trouble. Well, there could be, yeah, I was going to say, it could be a turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer here, and there is. What do you take? I think you take... Well, 2 dictates are difficult to beat. I think maybe Cryptic Command? Or even Blessed Alliance? Probably Blessed Alliance, I think, because he's quite far from Cryptic at this stage. Yeah, he takes the Blessed Alliance. Pressure on, he doesn't hit again, so now Anthony's working... He knows all but that last card, and he knows it's obviously not a land. Here comes a Smasher, and this is big trouble already. I think this one could be a quick game 3. After Paul took standard 2 games to 0, Anthony looks like he's going to strike back. Well, he's got a Blessed Alliance, so he's going to buy himself a turn here. Unless there's a Thought-Knots here. Yeah, Paul's just saying in chat that he got punished for keeping that 2-lander without a way of finding the 3rd land. Because he's in the awkward spot here. He can actually take a hit. Wait, what's... He can actually take a hit if he wanted to, if he had the land, but he doesn't, so he's kind of forced to fire off this Blessed Alliance here. If there's a counter spell here, it's all over. There is a counter spell, so we're going to Legacy. Anthony strikes back to take Modern 2 games to 1. Mortuary Mire. I'm not really sure. I think Paul plays his usual Stifle kind of deck here. Anthony, oh, here's a turn 1 Chalice. Well, this is big trouble. Yeah, you got to counter that. Loses his Brainstorm. He's going to go it again. This time it resolves, so no 1 mana plays for Paul. So Frederikson Dreadnought, which is one of his win cons, is out of the picture. This could be quite a quick game 1 actually. Because his Stifle won't work either. He's going to need a Torpor Orb. That won't work. I think this one's over. He'll take the Daze because the other 2 spells do nothing here. Huh? He took the... takes the Dreadnought. I'm not really sure what that was about. The only play I can... There's the Stifle for the Dreadnought. The only play I can think of there is that he's worried about a Chalice of the Voids. No, sorry, Chalice, a Cavern of Souls. Paul could play the... he could play that creature through the Cavern. This time he's surely going to take the Daze. Oh, he took Stifle. I don't know if he's forgotten he's got a Chalice for 1 there. Snapcaster ain't going to cut it here, but Force of Will, yep. So we're going to see a concession immediately. Okay, Hunted Horror is 2 mana, so that'll get around any Chalice here. But in blue-black colours, you don't have any way of... I'm surprised that Paul kept this hand, to be honest. He doesn't have any way of... Oh wait, no, sorry, I said too soon. He's actually mulliganed. I think you got a more that... Yeah, you got a mulligan that, so he's had pretty bad luck here. He's going to keep that Torpor Orb. He'll draw it here. Torpor Orb, though, does mean that he has to do his thing on turn 3 rather than turn 2. So you can see he's got the Dreadnought and the Hunted Horror. He can't play the Hunted Horror because he doesn't have the second black source at this stage. So here's Torpor Orb. That's going to stifle the Dreadnought and the Hunted Horror triggers. Both the Dreadnought and the Horror are superior to anything that Anthony's going to play. Here comes the 12-12. He's looking for a black source, I believe. Let's see what's going on Anthony's side. I think you take the Thorn. Yep. Probably doesn't care too much about a Thought-Knot Seer taking his Echoing Truth. Actually, Torpor Orb, I believe, will shut off the Thought-Knot Seer, because Thought-Knot Seer is when it enters the battlefield. It's an enter the battlefield trigger. So it's not going to work here. Still no black source. So in rumbles the Dreadnought. I believe this has got trample. Yeah, so lethal on board next turn. Hope he's going to play the Thought-Knot, because I want to test that theory. So here comes the Thought-Knot. So now we're going to see, yeah, so there's no enter the battlefield trigger. Torpor Orb shuts it off. He can bounce that end of turn, and I believe we're going to, he'll draw a card, and then we're going to go to game 3. Leaving the battlefield is certainly a trigger. And he gets a Stifle. A Diabolic Edict just to make sure of it. I believe if he fires off the, fires off the Edict, we're going to go to game 3. And we are. Yeah. Don't want to Snapcaster. So he's in the market for a. This is awkward. It's a turn 3 play here. But Chalice for 1, that's just been killing him. It was the match winner in game 1, and it shuts off Thoughtseize in this game. The awkward thing here is to play this. I was going to say Torpor Orb. He's taken the aggressive route here, so he needs to top deck a land. If he'd gone to Dark Confidant, he'd give himself 2 looks, but it would take him an extra turn. So I like the aggression there from Paul, but if it doesn't come off, I think it's going to be game over pretty quickly. Just a bit of time, I think. Is Anthony thinking here? A second Chalice for 1 also. I don't really see the point of that. Blue-black has no way to get a Chalice off the battlefield. I mean, except an Echoing Truth, but I mean, that's going to kill both those Chalices anyway. And there it is, so he doesn't hit the second land drop. So I suspect now it's a race to see who gets his second land drop first. Anthony missed as well. Okay, he's got his now. It's an Eye of Ugin. Into Eldrazi Mimic. Into Thought-Knot Seer. Okay, nice. What do you take here? I think you take... Oh, of course, Torpor Orb shuts it off. Still can't find that second land, so here we go. Clock is on the board. If Anthony finds a land, I think it's game over. He finds a land just as I say that. It's an endless one. It'll be for about 3, I believe. Yep. No trigger for the Mimic. I think Paul, if he doesn't see a land, will concede here. Let's see. He doesn't, and that's the game. Anthony wins at 8 points to 6.